The following is a presentation of TFNN. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Namaste and welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. It's Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien, and we are honored to be with you tonight. And I'd like to introduce our guest, who is right here in the studio with us. It's Connie Pappas, owner and founder of White Orchid Yoga, as well as spokesperson for NOPE, which is a nonprofit organization that stands for Narcotics Overdose Prevention and Education. And tonight's show is all about mindful parenting. So we're going to talk about, some interesting statistics and this subject, which we hope empowers parents to have better communication with their children. So certainly tonight's conversation is helpful for any parent out there listening tonight. So, Connie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How you doing, Connie?
Good, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, good. Great to see you. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
So we're going to start the show with a Greek toast to, since Connie is a strong Greek woman, and you have informed me that yasas is how we say cheers, yasas. So we're taking wheatgrass. Tom and I have decided we're going to take a wheatgrass shot every week because of its healing power. So,
and after this, I decided we're going to do one every day. But I haven't done one in a week, so that's pretty bad.
So here we go. It'll be at least our Wednesday tradition.
Yasas.
To your health, folks. To all our listeners, to the health of all the parents out there working hard to raise smart, healthy children to make this world a better place. Yasas.
That tastes so good.
Oh, it's so fresh.
It really does.
And sweet.
It's sweet.
It is.
So sweet. Yeah, it's very good.
So, drugs are in the news again recently. Just last week, this was the topic of a nightly news show that I was watching, but in January, the government of Vermont dedicated his whole State of the State address to the heroin and opiate problem in Vermont, which is shocking to me, because when I think of Vermont, I think of a home, sweet home, family, good morals and values type of place. And but unfortunately, he says that that is a full-blown heroin crisis gripping Vermont. And so that was the topic of his entire speech, not to mention, of course, the death just this past Sunday of Philip Seymour
that was
Hoffman.
amazing. And I guess, one of the biggest things, and it seems like there's ebbs and flows of this, is that cheap opiates in the marketplace destroy countries, literally.
Yeah.
They come in and get into a community.
Doing a very good job in our country.
They
doing
do.
a very good job in our country.
They come into the community and
destroying.
I think most folks don't even understand what they do to them very quickly. And then once you're in, it's a whole different ballgame.
I think a lot of people consider them safe in many ways, and sometimes they start as it's a prescribed thing. And I know that you have a lot of very helpful information to share with us. So, if you would tell us, Connie, how you got involved with NOPE.
So it's a very long story, but I'm going to condense it to thank you, first of all, for allowing me to speak about this, because this is a very intense subject for me, and a subject that has impacted my life on so many levels. In the 80s, I was married to a man, beautiful family, beautiful children. In those days, things like cocaine were glamorized.
Yes.
And he became quickly addicted. And I spent the second half of our almost 20-year marriage trying to save him.
Right.
I was not prepared for this. I didn't understand addiction. I wasn't educated about it.
Sure.
I didn't know that I couldn't save him just because I loved him. So, it got worse and worse and worse till I finally left him. Then it was a battle to keep the children, my boys, away from him, because his life had become so ingrained in the lifestyle. So, lost my marriage. My older son went to see him one weekend in April. A very promising young man, getting his education, living ahead in life. 2 days after he went to see him, I got a call that he had died.
Oh, my God.
Drug overdose.
And how old was he at the time?
23.
23.
And between his death and the next 3 years, when my ex-husband finally passed away due to his drug abuse as well, I fought tooth and nail to keep my younger son clean and away from him.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And he's fighting now. He's in his 4th rehab.
Okay.
He's got an extensive record in and out of jail, in and out of courtrooms. I was in the court with him on Monday, again, because I'd filed a Marchman Act on him just as a protection.
And what is that?
A Marchman is like a Baker Act.
Okay.
Basically, it's more for drug abuse.
I see.
And it just is a layer of protection. Should he decide to skip out on the rehab, then the police can pick him up and put him in jail right away.
And is this a cocaine addiction or an opiate addiction, or what?
At this last time round was opiates.
Okay.
Opiates.
Is it always different? How does that?
It depends on what's available.
Okay.
It depends on who they're with. Their father's addiction was cocaine, and that got so expensive, and he spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month on this addiction. Then it went to crack. And then it went to, sometimes they get to where it's anything they can take.
Right.
And that's kind of,
right.
My son ended up marrying a woman who was an addict as well. They had a baby. Baby was born addicted. Spent 9 weeks in the hospital detoxing. That's my grandson, Nicholas, who I'm now raising.
Who's beautiful, folks, by the
Adorable.
way.
He's
Absolutely
beautiful. He's amazing.
Huge.
Yeah,
You're
he's
amazing. It's an amazing story.
But he is, that's part of what I would love to talk about a little bit tonight is what's going on in our neonatal intensive care units. Because if we don't start looking at this problem from the pervasiveness of it,
right.
If we don't see that this is generational and that now we have whole generations being born addicted, going home oftentimes to addicted parents.
Yes.
And being raised in an environment which is going to probably suggest that they end up addicted as well.
No, totally.
Right.
So it's a very intensive situation we're in. And I don't think in this country, I kudos to this governor in Vermont. In Florida, the good old Oxycontin highway that we had here a few years ago.
Well, you know what's amazing to me? This gets interesting about Vermont, too. Because Vermont, I believe that the way it works in Vermont is that if it's pot, it's a $5 fine, okay? Where he's all over this other deal. Down here, it's just the opposite. It always blew my mind how the drug companies could come in and you could have pill mills every block, right? And the pills are so bad. I mean, and what I've seen is this. Okay, so I grew up in the 80s, right?
Me too.
Plenty,
70s and 80s.
plenty of my friends, and if you weren't around the 80s, folks, it was normal with people running around with cocaine spoons around their neck, which is...
Right, we were in the clubs, the disco dust and the whole...
The crazy thing is that you absolutely had to get out of your environment, though. I had plenty of friends that have to help out for 10, 15 years, and they finally made it, but it took that long.
God's grace.
Inside the cities. And it was always the same places. It's always the same barrooms. I mean, we grew up in barrooms, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you had to get out of it. You had to absolutely get out of that environment.
Now you really can't, though, Tom.
No, I understand. I'm
Right?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the things you said about, you think of Vermont as this homey little place. It's the same thing people think about in families. They think, there's still such a stigma. Still.
It could never happen to me. Or
it's not about the guy under the bridge.
Right.
It's about anybody's family, anybody's religion, anybody's race, anybody's anything.
Sure.
It has nothing. It crosses every boundary.
It does.
So we have to start looking at this as a disease. And if we don't,
Right.
and we look at it as a character flaw, it's not going to get anywhere. But we've got to start talking about it. We've got to bring it out of the closet.
We definitely do. And, it's not obviously the easiest conversation to have, but on NOPE's website, I was so shocked to see the statistics that 80% of high schoolers and 44% of middle schoolers will be exposed to drugs and alcohol, usually at school or through someone they know at
Absolutely.
school. So
Even younger.
if
even
we,
younger.
as parents, don't somehow find a way to talk with our children, someone else is going to.
That's right.
So that's why I think it's so important what you're doing and standing up. And you also mentioned it's not just a low-income thing. You know, this
not
is
at all.
runs any
Not at all.
demographic,
Right.
you know, many different ages, incomes, you know, where you're from does not matter. And you mentioned to me when we were talking before the show, Connie, that oftentimes the children will find drugs at home in the medicine cabinet.
They say, the statistics say that 60 to 75% of the focus group, which are 18 to 25, and younger, of course, but that's focus group. That's the largest demographic of addicts, young addicts, find it in their parents' medicine cabinet. I mean, doctors give Xanax out like it's an aspirin.
The pharmaceutical companies, there's no doubt, it
No
blows
doubt.
my mind what they're getting away with.
No doubt.
And inside between the pharmaceutical and the political bureaucracies, I mean, how can this happen? How can you have...
It's about money, Tom.
It is. It's absolutely about money.
It's not about lives.
Right.
It's not about... an interesting statistic I was going to put out from the beginning is in the United States constitutes 4.6 of the world population. We consume 80% of the world opiate production.
80%.
Staggering, isn't it?
It is staggering.
What does that say about our society? What does
Right.
that say about, you know, our ability to cope, number one? I mean, yeah, of course there's need for these hard drugs. But, you know, back in my day when someone they were end of life or they were struggling with cancer or
Sure.
major surgery, then they got, I think it was Dilaudid was probably the hardest thing back in the 70s
Yes,
and 80s.
right.
That they got it. But you didn't get it when you got your wisdom teeth out. Now, I have a cousin whose daughter got her wisdom teeth out. She got 30 oxycodone. Really?
They do.
Right.
For their wisdom teeth? They told me to go home and take an ice pack on my mouth.
Yes.
Me too.
And you don't need 30 pills of anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because
for a
then,
wisdom tooth.
Well,
right.
then what is happening is they're going back to their schools, and the kids know, she got her wisdom teeth out. Let's go up there.
Interesting.
And these
Yeah,
kids are
right.
getting attacked by 6, 7, 8 kids. Like,
Right.
do you want to sell your leftovers?
Right.
And that's what's happening.
Now, what does a Xanax do?
Wow.
What is a Xanax?
A Xanax is like an anti-anxiety medication.
Okay.
It's like an Ativan or something like very addictive.
Really?
Very addictive. And I know lots of people in their 70s and 80s that take them every day. Well, I could guess when you get to your 70s and 80s, I shouldn't say that because I'm not that far.
Not there yet.
But not there yet. But, you know, it's just, it's amazing to me that people just don't understand that chronic pain is one thing, and that's how this whole thing started. This
Yes.
whole opiate addiction thing started. Is there was a time when the specialists in pain management and rehab believed that the problem arose from a concern when chronic pain was being undertreated.
Right.
So all these papers started being written, which resulted in these doctors starting to prescribe it for not cancer patients, not serious
Right.
surgery. That's how this thing has, and these drugs are extremely addicting.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Very
and you're talking
powerful.
about the pharmaceutical companies?
Right.
They take one off the market, they're going to make one
Oh,
stronger
they have
and
another
harder.
one. No,
Yeah.
they have
Yeah,
another
they
one.
are. Yeah,
And
they are.
what does happen in that business, and this is plenty of doctors have already, many scandals, but no one goes to jail, is the kickbacks. The
Yeah,
kickbacks
it's
are
true.
absolutely huge.
Right.
It's true, Tom.
And it goes through, the kickbacks can go through, whether it's cash, the kickbacks go through screening, meaning testing, okay? So there's a lot of different ways that the doctors and medical communities get kicked back. Okay, you do the screening, we'll give you more money on this screening versus
Mm-hmm. Right.
the drug.
That's right.
Okay,
Right.
They swap it, and it's disgusting.
All about coding.
Oh, yeah,
It's all
no.
about that medical coding.
It is coding.
Yeah,
I know.
it is.
I mean,
Just doesn't seem there's not much, or if any, accountability at that level. It's up to us. And what's interesting is, as we're pointing out, it's not always necessarily a conscious choice to take the drugs. Sometimes they're prescribed,
Yeah.
and then it's
But I think
escalates
doctors are
from there.
prescribing. It's one of the things I've learned recently is doctors are a lot of times the pain that people feel, and we know this because we practice yoga, right? May be coming from a pain that's a psychological, emotional pain.
Right.
I only get pain when I don't do yoga.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I know that.
I do.
I
We all
agree.
say that. But they're prescribing this for problems that probably need some other kind of treatment.
Right.
No doubt.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with more from Connie Pappas. We're going to be talking about things that you can do to help educate your children. Stay with us.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy, a set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Ellie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, folks. We're here with Connie Pappas, founder and owner of White Orchid Yoga Studio here in Clearwater, Florida, as well as a spokesperson for the nonprofit organization NOPE, which stands for Narcotics Overdose Prevention and Education. And we're talking about mindful parenting, really. What can we as a society do to help bring more awareness to this growing problem in our society? And this conversation comes on the heels of a speech that the governor of Vermont just gave in January, in which he said, the time has come for us to stop quietly averting our eyes from the growing heroin addiction in our front yards. And he said that the heroin problem poses more of a threat, a bigger challenge to Vermont than Tropical Storm Irene did. So apparently, and it's not just Vermont. I mean, we're sitting here talking about that. We're seeing it right here in Florida, and I'm sure anyone across the nation who can hear this now, around the world, can relate. So I know you mentioned that your beautiful grandson, Nicholas, who is baby Buddha, adorable, was born addicted, which you mentioned is another growing problem as a result of this drug problem.
You know, since my involvement with NOPE, even before that, you know, seeing the kids, the high school kids, the middle school kids getting addicted. My husband, ex-husband, he passed away. My son passed away. But being in that neonatal for 9 weeks and watching these babies all in these plexiglass incubators, with their little hats on, and a lot of them really screaming and struggling and
God.
twitching, and I mean just what you see, you know, in Hollywood when
Sure.
the addicts are coming off drugs. That's
Right.
what you see with the baby, but this is a newborn. And my grandson was there 9 weeks, which is a long time to watch these nurses, God bless them
That's
for what
amazing.
they do, come in and tuck the little morphine,
Oh.
syringe in his mouth.
Oh.
Okay.
And give him enough morphine to calm him. I never saw so much with him. He was a big baby,
Yes.
thank God, full term and very strong. And I always
Yeah.
like to say he was Greek. It's the Greek blood.
Totally. No doubt.
But
no
you
doubt.
know, a lot of the other babies were really struggling. I didn't see the intensity with Nicholas, but they said, you know, there were times when I kept saying, "How much longer? How much longer?"
Yes.
They would try to lower the dosage. He'd have a rough night. They'd have to up the dosage again. And 9 weeks is a long time.
I know.
Sure.
Why so long?
Well, according to, I have adopted him. So after I adopted him, I got the legal right to get the reports. And the report states that they thought the mother was taking somewhere between 10 to 15 Vicodin a day. 10 to
Okay.
15 a day.
Right.
So it's saturation levels. It's saturation levels. It's the size of a child, just like
Sure.
an adult.
Based on the
You
level
know,
of addiction.
Exactly. How long it takes it to get out of their tissues and out of their bloodstream and all of that stuff, and how well they tolerate it. I mean, there were some babies in there.
Oh.
I remember my first few days. I just looked around this nursery and
Yeah,
I
it's
just
not-
looked at the nurses and I'm like, "You're kidding me! All
Right.
these babies are detoxing," and they said, "Welcome to our world."
So innocent.
And since then, I was invited by Attorney General Bondi because I wanted to get involved with her closing down the pill mills. She did a great
Yes.
job to shut
Right.
down a great percentage
No,
of them in
for
Florida.
sure.
Great job.
For sure.
But we did a tour one day of St. Joseph's Hospital. My grandson was in Mies. St. Joseph's had developed a whole wing for babies detoxing. Low lights, low stimulus, because they can't handle
Sure.
much.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad it is.
It's
and
growing.
and then these babies, a lot of times, and we talked about this earlier, Allie and I, about the always wanting to keep families together. You know, that's
Yes.
natural. You think that's natural.
Right.
But in our society now,
Right.
I think the babies need to come before the family unit needs to be kept together, because if the family unit is dysfunctional and addicted and damaged, that baby doesn't stand a chance.
No, baby's
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah.
No, I
Die one way or the other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
And the
Right.
statistic is there's one drug-addicted baby born every hour
in
in the
this
United
country.
States. And then, the question is, what happens to them after they detox and they're released? Do they go home with the parents? And
Well, in the case of my grandson, he went home with my son and daughter-in-law, and I tried to talk to DCF. I tried to offer him a safe place to come home to me
Sure.
until they got cleaned up, until the mother went through detox, and my son too.
Sure.
And she treated me as though I was a leper. She talked to me so rudely, like, "Miss Pappas, you know, we keep families together." I said, "Excuse me, she's an addict. She needs to go through treatment. I'm offering a safe place where
Right.
we'd have to come check out your house." I said, "Great, I'll make lunch. Come on over."
Now who are we talking about?
This is my son
Yes.
and my daughter.
that you're talking
No,
to the Child Protective
DCF.
Services.
Division of Children and Family.
That's sick.
Bad.
Yeah, that's
Bad.
insane.
So
And
what
a
they-
baby
Right,
that
right.
just spent 9 weeks detoxing in the
Right.
hospital.
And they're gonna
is
send
You
us
put
sent
them right back into
Send
the
them right home with
environment.
them.
Right.
with his parents.
But DCF does, well, we follow up. About 6 weeks, maybe a little more than that, maybe closer to 2 months, they did home checks, but they would call. "We're coming Wednesday at 3.
Oh, great.
I can clean my house up and clean up if I know that
Sure.
DCF's going to be out my
Right.
door.
Right.
You know, they did some, like, counseling. You know, the lady, met the lady who came with the little books to try to teach my daughter-in-law how to parent.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
She never went through a detox. She never completed. I mean, she completed what they said, and then they were back into it. I mean, it was a matter of about 6 months they had the baby. I was there every week.
So this has to be another area then that, I mean, I know that, you know, states and government are looking at trying to provide treatment centers, and, you know, I think oftentimes that's probably too late, you know? I mean, but this seems like a place we need to invest more awareness into, a more
Totally.
strict regimen that
Totally.
these babies should not be
And
sent back to that
where
environment.
hard decisions get made too.
Tough
Yeah.
stuff.
It is one person taking another person down.
That's right.
You know, there's a deal there. Like, how many times is a husband going to take a wife down? Is a wife going to
That's
take
right.
a husband down
Yeah.
in the course of trying to save them?
Right.
Those are all tough conversations, tough decisions. But when
And
you're
the
talking,
thing, and you really have to think, and Allie and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, I hate to sound so harsh, but giving birth to a child does not a mother make.
Right.
You know, if you're so addicted that you're filling your child with, assaulting this child for 9 months, and
Oh,
my
the-
daughter-in-law smoked, and I don't know if she drank or not. I don't think she needs to drink with all of that, but you know, then you come out and you don't try. They don't give them an opportunity to prove themselves. If they
Yes.
want to do this, great. Let the baby be placed in a safe place. Let them see if they can get through a treatment program where they have some length of sobriety, and then try to integrate the child back into the house. This old bonding, getting them to bond at the beginning, they can't really bond that well when they're
Yeah.
addicted, when they're taking
and that's because the addiction's so
snorting.
bad.
Right.
I mean, that's the problem.
Right.
That's
It
the
is.
begin. That is the problem.
It is.
Right.
You know, and we as a society have to face that. Guess what? That is huge, number one,
Yeah.
and it's huge, and it's hard to get rid of it. I mean, look, who's that actor? The same thing,
Yeah.
and it's not that there's thousands of other people that picture could be in the paper every
That's
single
right.
day.
Of
And
course.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no
But
doubt.
because he's in Hollywood.
But when you see something like that, it's like, I mean,
The guy, and the sad thing is, this is how intense this disease is. He was clean for like 20-something years, I read, right?
He was, okay.
And he evidently planned this binge. Now, he's got 3 beautiful children at home, a beautiful wife, a successful career. He planned, evidently, from what I've read and heard, this binge and had, 70 bags of heroin or whatever.
yeah.
And then he also had bought detox meds for when he got done with it so he could detox himself.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my
and I
God.
understand there's been an arrest because there's a certain type of heroin that's being put out on the streets that's
Oh,
They
deadly.
haven't
Wow.
seen for a long
It's
time.
the
They
same.
said,
That's
yeah.
what- yeah.
Hopefully they'll find the source of it. So, you know, the question is now, what can we do? Through the work that you're doing with NOPE, I know we talked a little bit about this and how you're going into schools and talking to the children. You've got some strong opinions about that, and I think that you're certainly a person of authority, someone whose opinion matters. By the way, folks, if you guys would like to check out, and you should, I encourage you to check out NOPE's website. It's nopetaskforce.org, and they have a ton of helpful resources for parents, for children, and
You
suggestions
can
on how to talk
contact
to them.
us as well through NOPE should you ever want to have someone to talk to you or guide you in any way. We'd be happy to do that. We can't recommend this or recommend that, but we can talk to you and support you.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
that's what we need to do.
absolutely.
So what age typically are you going in to talk to the children at school?
We talk, at this point, we're talking to middle schools and high schools. And I had to go observe like 3 different times before I was allowed to speak. And there was one night where it was like at-risk kids out of Clearwater High. We sat there and talked to them. They'd already been in trouble. They'd already been kicked out or they were on probation or whatever. So we talked to them.
What's the message you share? Can you give us an idea of the presentation? Or?
Well, the idea behind NOPE is that we get up, parents, fathers, mothers get up and share the loss of our children.
Okay.
And to humanize it,
Right.
to take it out of this, like, you know, like I said, the guy in the corner or on the, you know, in the gutter.
Yes.
There's pictures of my son behind me when I'm speaking.
Right.
There's anecdotal stories about his life and what he was going to do. The children, it's interesting. I noticed in the middle schools, a number of them had to get up and leave, and they were in tears,
Oh, wow.
which pretty much may indicate they're seeing some stuff at home or they've dealt with it.
Or friends at school.
Or somebody,
Sure.
yeah, there's something going on. So there's always like social workers there and people to help talk to them. The high school, my first talk was, and I've only spoken once at the high school, then I did the vigil. I was thrown into the vigil pretty quickly, but I was happy to do that at Largo Park in October. I spoke at Countryside High School. There were about 600 kids.
That's a big high school.
That's great. I just applaud you for, you know,
Thank you.
I'm terribly sorry for the tragedy that you experienced, and yet you're finding it a way to help countless others. So thank you, Connie. So we're going to be back with more helpful tips and suggestions that you can hopefully incorporate as parents or friends to help the children in your life. So we'll be right back.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living. Tonight, we're focusing on mindful parenting and what we can do as a society and as parents to talk with our children about the real risk of drug and alcohol abuse, which again, NOPE says 80% of high schoolers will face probably at school and 44% of middle schoolers. And this to me is such a powerful statistic because I'm a parent. I have young kids at home, 5 and 7, and so I'll be having this conversation with them sooner rather than later. And in fact, I will say they did have a Say No to Drugs day at school, at my children's school this year, and my daughter's in kindergarten, my son's in first grade. So it was interesting to see that it is being brought up at a really early age.
You know what's interesting about that, though, and this. That the Say No to Drugs, okay, is say no to drugs that supposedly are illegal.
Right.
Not say no to drugs that, guess what?
Very good
Hey,
point.
Mom and Dad have the script.
Right,
You know,
there is
that
okay.
are 10 times
It's in the
more
medicine
powerful.
cabinet.
Oh, this is okay. This is breakfast, okay?
Yeah.
So there's a real deal inside of that, I think, that, and these poor young kids, you know, when you think middle school, and you think like one of those pills, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so when you're at middle schools, when you're at high schools, is it a pharmaceutical addiction? Most of the problems, or is it across the board?
I think we're focusing more on pharmaceutical now, just because it's quadrupled. It's quadrupled since 1999. Between 1999 and 2011, it has quadrupled in this country. I've got more statistics, tons of them, but there's 500,000 people in our country dying a year to drug overdose. Now I'm talking about tobacco, alcohol, opiates, illegals, and prescription drugs. So that's a lot of people. CDC says that 15,000 a year are dying just to opiates, just to the opiates.
Right.
So that's a lot.
And the opiates, again, you said are painkillers, mostly painkillers, like morphine-like drugs or type drugs.
Right. So it doesn't matter. A drug is a drug is a drug, but the propensity of these drugs and the children's opportunity to see them right in their own homes.
Sure. And think it's all right.
And think it's safe.
If I was growing up now and inside my mother or father's medicine cabinet was there, that would be normal because it's something inside your house that you open like that is normal. Particularly it's inside a bottle, right?
Right. It seems okay. It's
right.
It's
You think
a
a
lot of
doctor
mixed
gives it
messages.
to you,
Exactly.
and you think it's okay.
Right.
But, the addiction, the opportunity for addiction with these drugs, I mean, and we have to look at ourselves as parents and grandparents. What are we doing?
Right.
Why do we have these drugs in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really need them? Or
No.
is it just because the doctor said, oh, my back really hurts, my neck, or I have a bad neck.
Sure.
I could be taking this stuff
Sure.
if I want to, but instead we do yoga and
Right.
try
Right.
to find alternative ways to
Right.
deal with things that
Right.
are uncomfortable.
Yes.
But so we are talking about, we talk to the kids, there's always a little film at the beginning, and then we try to make it very personal.
Right.
And, when I talked about losing Nicholas, I told them, and I was surprised because, high school kids, I'm thinking, they were rowdy and they were making
Sure.
a lot of noise. When I started speaking, they were very respectful. When I told them, and they saw his picture, and I said, he was an athlete. He was graduating in a month.
Sure.
He was, had all these plans. He never dreamed in a million years that this would happen to him.
Totally.
Right.
No one wants to
Right.
die.
It's
No one.
accidental.
No
Yeah.
one does this on purpose. I mean,
No.
there's,
and he and his heart stopped.
Sure.
Right.
And you don't know. And it doesn't matter, like the actor that just died, I mean, obviously that's street drugs and that's more risky. But again, Tom, you and I can really easily get into the pharmaceutical and what has been passed by the FDA and as
For
safe,
sure.
and then comes back later and where there's all these class actions like, okay, if you've got liver cancer because of this, or you've got,
Oh, there's no
Right, it
doubt.
happens every day.
To me, the heroin epidemic has always been there. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
cheap drugs that is bad, and they can destroy cities, countries. But the actual medical community and the drug culture, with the bureaucracy doing nothing about it, I think is our largest problem. Because they're all hypocrites.
Yeah.
They're hypocrites beyond belief. They're saying they're saying they want to put someone away for stealing a pizza, and great, the guy down the street
Right.
is a doctor that doesn't want to be a real doctor anymore. So now he's a pill mill.
Right.
Okay, signing them up
Right.
and destroying lives.
Yes. It seems so backwards because it seems like heroin and the opiates, those both are coming from opium. And they're similar drugs. And what's interesting is you always hear that, the gateway drugs. Well, in this case, the painkiller
are becoming
the prescribed drug is the gateway drug because it's of the same
heroin's
source.
actually cheaper now.
Exactly,
than a lot
same
of the
effect.
prescription drugs.
And so a lot of
That's
these
amazing.
children
Right?
will move
That's
to
amazing.
heroin.
Supply and demand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when someone, when you're doing one of these speeches, right? Are the kids listening?
Yes.
Yeah, sweet.
I was
That's
thinking,
awesome.
oh boy,
That's great.
this is going to be a tough crowd here, right?
That's awesome.
And when I finished, they stood up,
Right.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
and they applauded, and I was kind of in tears a little
That's
bit because
awesome.
it was hard, the first time. I just don't believe there's anything for me to be ashamed of, nor was there for Nicholas to be ashamed of. He made a mistake, a huge mistake,
Right.
an error in
Right.
judgment.
I love that we're having this conversation because you're absolutely right. I'll have this conversation even when this has to be out there.
It has to be. The stigma has to be lost.
It does
Right.
because it's
People are-
mainstream.
Yeah.
And
And unfortunately, because I think of that feeling of guilt, of stigma, I'll be judged, a lot of people are ignoring the problem or pretending like it's not there. And you mentioned some of the key signs that we can look for in our children. What are those?
If you see, obviously, I mean, and these are also signs you could find of some kind of organic mental, problem, psychological problems. But moodiness, mood swings, poor decisions, sleeping a lot, depression, bad choices, questionable people coming around your house.
Right. Right.
And then you have to say, well, a lot of teens do stuff like that. They sleep a lot.
yes.
But, I feel like there's a gut
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
feel
No.
like.
You have to pay attention. That's
Some things,
mindful.
Be mindful.
Mindful.
That's right.
And the idea is talk to them about it.
Yes.
to them about it.
If you find there's a problem, then go get, for God's sake, this is a disease there's treatment for.
Yes.
It's not,
Right.
it is a fatal disease
Right.
Yeah.
if you don't get treatment
Right.
for it. But it's not a death sentence given to you by a doctor that says you've got 6 weeks to live.
Yeah.
And you know what's cool? I mean, and there's a lot of people that are in the business to get people better that have been addicted, so they really
Oh,
have
yeah.
that experience. So so a one-on-one with, like in a classroom situation with that, they know. They know
Well-
what they're feeling. They can help them. The probability they can help them goes up dramatically.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Michael, my son is in his fourth, as I said, rehab now. He spent the holidays in jail this year after he relapsed, and then he spent the holidays in jail, and he's back in rehab again. And the man that started it, his son, the man that started it's a doctor. This rehab began catering more to professionals, doctors, lawyers, people like that are in all kinds of trouble losing their licenses and so on. All the counselors there, almost all the counselors there are recovering addicts.
Yes.
And
right.
you know what? No matter how much I love my son, I can talk till I'm blue in the face. I've never been an addict.
No, that's why I was bringing it up. Exactly.
I can be,
No, exactly.
empathetic
right.
to him.
Sure.
But have I ever felt what it likes to be controlled by something like that?
What the grab is.
Yeah.
What the grab is when
But his
you're
therapist
straight.
does.
Right, it's
When
hard
you're
to
straight.
understand.
Come here.
Yeah, we can
come
make
here.
that decision.
It's horrible. It's
Right.
horrible to watch. Just like, I mean, you see what happened to Michael Jackson. You see what happened to all
I
these
know.
people.
Yeah.
You think they have everything to live for in the
Everything.
world. But that's the insatiable pain that's buried that people don't want to talk about. A lot of people don't talk about drug addiction because they don't want to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
They don't want to, and a lot of parents, and it may be alcohol.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, that's right.
That's a very dangerous drug that
Oh, yeah.
kills a
That's
lot
killed
of people.
Amy Winehouse. She died of
Right.
alcohol
Right.
poisoning.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that means they're going to have to face some of their demons too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if we don't start looking at this and stop acting as though it's something to be ashamed of, we're going to lose more
right.
generations.
Yeah, I think it's so important, like you said, if you get that gut feeling or if you're questioning some behavior or just curious, why not ask?
Early
Why not
intervention.
find a way? And if you're not quite sure how to communicate, find a way,
And,
find us a resource or ask a friend.
The aspect of society. I think if you're hanging around a table, folks, and someone brings it up, oh yeah, I have some of these. You should question that person right then and there. Say, why do you have them?
Yeah.
Even with your friends, say, why do you have those in your house? Do you really need them? Do you know what I mean? And some of your friends might say, well, what are you doing? But the reality is, if we want to get serious about it,
Right.
there's no reason that
Confront people.
Yeah,
I do.
that hey, listen, you shouldn't have given you 30
unhappy people around
30
me.
pills. No, but seriously,
But
man,
it's true.
It is because then what you're doing is that then it's not okay that whether we're out somewhere and someone just brings up non-stop, they says, oh yeah, they gave me that. Well, they shouldn't have given you that.
Right.
So you got
And how many people take other people's drugs is amazing to me. Well, somebody gave me, this, my back's been hurting, so they gave me this muscle relaxer, or they
Right.
gave me this. I'm like, you just don't take, what are you doing? That is very common.
And you
It
also
is.
mentioned the fact that a lot of people have that mindset, which is it's an old school mindset, that all my problems can be fixed by drugs. We've talked about that on some of our other shows here,
Right.
that oftentimes drugs just mask the problem, the true issue. And so it can be really helpful to explore other holistic means of healing like yoga and meditation.
Like yoga and meditation,
which
absolutely.
has been so pivotal, for me, and
Oh, totally.
I know you can
Totally.
relate to that as well.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I didn't have addiction, but I had to deal with intense grief that we talked about on the first
Oh,
time
sure.
I was on the show. And I didn't go bury myself in the bottom
Right.
bottom of a bottle.
Right.
I didn't take painkillers. I was
Thank
in
God.
very
Yep.
intense pain.
Right.
And I still am some days.
Sure, right.
A lot of days. But I just don't, I know that you can't just take a pill and it go away.
Right.
It's there in the morning, usually with a vengeance, whatever your pain is.
Sure.
yeah,
Right.
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 Yeah. So absolutely. But
Yoga and meditation can be such helpful ways.
yeah, see us?
And then
Always going to come back to mindfulness.
and then you're living though. No, it's real. I
You're
mean,
taking
it's-
wheatgrass shots instead of tequila shots.
That's right.
There's no doubt because those facing, sometimes you don't even know you have pain. That's what kind of gets interesting too.
Yeah.
But if you get onto that mat, if you get into that meditation, then you start realizing that you're feeling much, much better, period. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, whatever that is, it's good.
Yeah,
Right.
well, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, who's the Buddhist master, and he says that mindfulness practice is bringing awareness to even the challenging times in life,
Absolutely.
is both revealing and healing. So you have to feel in order to heal. So those things, it's
I
not
think-
always easy, but in order to see them and be with them, then you can make better choices for your health and healing.
We've become a society of a lot of people, of numb people. So many people don't want to. I mean, if you can't feel if you can't feel the pain and the sorrow and the grief and all the intense things of life, then you really can't feel joy.
Right.
You
Right.
really don't know what that feels like. You
Right.
think you know what happiness is, but It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a pain pill. It's not a bottle. It's not, any kind of needle in your vein, But that's what they think. It makes them feel better. Really.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's awful. It's a horrible disease, and it steals souls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
steals souls, steals families, steals communities.
Destroys families.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I love the point that you brought up, that those decisions are tough, but children should be taken away. It makes no sense
have to
that
change it.
you get a 2-week-old or 3-week-old baby that is gone, and they're going back to addicted parents.
Yeah, helpless.
I mean, that's
I
pretty
think,
intense.
it would be really good for parents, for potential young people that are planning children to see this.
Yeah. Didn't you say it was just on, was it on one of the talk shows this week? They showed a pretty graphic image or a video of
Dr.
that?
Phil had a show on. He had a 16-year-old pregnant, 7-month pregnant young woman who was snorting cocaine and doing pain pills with her sister, who was a 20-year-old addict. And the mother was there. She was going through cancer treatment, ex-alcoholic. He showed, some of the babies in the neo. I think we need to put that on TV more. I think people need to see this.
Yeah.
I think people need to see what can happen to you and to your baby and what's going to happen to our future generations if we don't start looking at it. It's ugly.
Yeah. And the fact that it is,
don't wanna
you
see
mentioned
this.
generations. It's a generational thing. I mean, going back to Vermont, he said the number of deaths doubled in a year.
Right.
So it's
In Little Vermont.
not going away. We have to talk about this.
It's going to grow and grow exponentially if we don't start looking at it and start taking, like Bondi, our Attorney General did a lot. She did a lot. She did a hard work to shut down because they were all over Clearwater.
Yeah, they were.
They're across the street from us.
Folks, where we were, I think Florida was the capital of the pill mills, right?
It was called the Oxycontin Highway for a while because
Okay.
people were coming from the south, all over the country to
Right.
Florida because you could get it so easily here. You could walk into one of these pill mills. They'll give you an X-ray,
Yeah.
and you got to pay cash.
Okay.
And then they'll give you your script
Yeah.
for 30, 60 days, and then
Okay.
you come back. If you go to another pill mill, they'll do the same thing. If you take an X-ray of my back or your back, I'm sure we could probably qualify for pain pills.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
All of our backs.
Oh, right.
We're not going to exclude little Allie.
No, it's a very good thing to mention because I hurt my back so drastically lifting my son the wrong way. I herniated a disc and bulged two above it.
So you would have been able to go to one of these pill mills and get a script for probably 60 days worth of painkillers.
Yeah, and it,
And then they go from place to place.
Yes, I know. And, but who wants to, I personally, the addiction thing, you have to look at more, right? Because that, like you said, that's a disease. And some of us can understand it and some of us cannot, right? Some of us may take pain pills for pain we're having in our back and not become addicted, while someone else may
Absolutely.
have a completely opposite experience.
Absolutely. That's very, very true.
And, what are the bureaucracies doing about it? What are they, because it's amazing to me that across states, they want to take food stamps away. I mean, food stamps, they only get $113 a month. People think they get a lot of money. It's like, so inside the bureaucracy, how do they deal with it?
That's not I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer. I know that we spend $53 billion a year on drug-related crime, drug-related juvenile justice, adult justice in this country, and we don't,
Yeah. And see, that's why the education has to be made, too.
Yeah, because it
Right.
seems like, just from this conversation, if you look at where that money's being spent, it's too late.
how much better can it be spent?
Because the problem is still growing. Where can we get to the source
Get it
of the
before,
issue?
right. But
Yeah.
again, it has to come from all of our attitudes towards
Yes.
Right.
quick fixes and, let me take a pill for this.
Right.
Take a pill and I'm going to lose 20 pounds this weekend. Take a pill and, I'm going to be happy,
Right.
This is cool because it really comes down to having conversations
Yes.
with all your friends
Right.
in a regular environment and talk about it.
Right.
Exactly what you said.
And I'm not, not in a judgmental way.
No,
I mean, it's
no,
out
not
of
at all.
love for-
No,
I don't want anybody to go through or see the things I've experienced.
No, that's
in my
out of
life.
love. It's absolutely
Right.
out of love.
But you get a lot
Yeah.
of pushback when you start
Oh,
talking
listen,
to people
I-
that don't want to hear.
Oh,
Oof.
there's no doubt.
Yeah.
I can see that. Well, and it's hard to do depending on what environment you're in, right?
Yeah.
And at the same point, it's hard to do. Let's say you're out with 4 or 5 couples. One of the couples said something. Whether the husband or wife says something, and the other say, "Well, why'd you say that?" I mean, there's a million. But we all should take the responsibility to say something in a way that is non-threatening.
Yeah.
But that's real. That's real.
It absolutely is, and it's a pandemic. It's beyond just epidemic proportions, and if we don't, I don't know. We have to have more governors like the governor in Vermont that wants to put it on the table and talk about it.
Yes.
Don't get me started on our governor, but
yeah, right.
You're supposed to not say that.
No, you can definitely say that because I think that
focus on the things that are happening right here in our state.
It blew my mind when this whole thing. I mean, he came out of the hospital business.
Yeah, right.
We have the pill mills everywhere, and yet he's saying he's hard on crime. It's like, oh, really? Except for the pharmaceutical companies.
That's right.
Except for all the doctors.
A little bit of conflict of interest there, you think?
No, well, and then it gets down to privatizing prisons, and guess what? $113 a night, okay? Well, you know what that's really about? How many more can we lock up? Okay? Let's see. We got $113 a night per prison. Right. Okay, when you start breaking it down, it's all about money. And that's where the hypocrisy comes in, and that's what drives me crazy. So it does. It absolutely drives me crazy.
We can go on and on about this for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And I love your idea though that talking about it in a grassroots community is the way that we all can get educated more, not worry about any stigmas, and realize that. And I think if someone gets in trouble, they'll be quicker to come to you.
Right.
A lot quicker, like, oh, no,
Right.
Like, I think I might be in a little trouble. Or
my kid's in trouble. What should I do?
Right.
Right.
Or, who have you spoken to? What kind of, help can I get for them?
Sure.
If you're not going to talk about it, then you're going to be in a really bad place.
Fear is terrible.
Definitely.
Fear is terrible. And for the kids, because one of your kids, folks, might turn around and one of their friends, and they've already talked about it, and they know, hey, there's nothing to worry about. My parents will help you. Someone else's parents will help you. Your parents will help you. But talk about it.
Right. Talk about it, definitely. And that's one of the things that is really emphasized on the Nope website is that, we sometimes underestimate how big a role parents play in helping the prevention and bringing more education to this awareness. We can't just leave it up to the teachers. We can't just leave it up to the schools or the government. We as parents need to take an active role. So, Connie, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight and having this conversation with us. Yeah. Thanks for all the work you're doing. And folks, thanks for joining us. If you need more information on how to prevent this, please go to Nope's website. We'll post it at TFNN for you. And join us next week for more Mindful Living. Thank you so much.
Folks.
Namaste.
Namaste.